Hello, my name is Leah. So last year I started tracking literally every single day of my writing. I made a video about that, sort of like the first 6 months of me trying it out. I absolutely loved it. I will link that down below, and I will also leave links down below the place that you can get this particular writing tracker. So this was a template made by Kate Kavanaugh. I absolutely love it. I have changed like basically nothing other than I've added pages, which I will get into, and I've added a couple graphs. And so today I wanted to sit down and kind of go over my writing stats for the first half of 2022. I know this is August that I'm posting this. This right here is going to be going through January through June. If you watched my last video, you know why this video is being posted so late. But I haven't written since mid-May-ish, which makes this an interesting one because June has 0 words in it, which I have not had like a 0 word month in so long, like probably ever, honestly, because even before I was writing, like I was in school writing essays. And so I don't think I've ever like had a 0 word month, but you know, 2022 is the year of surprises. So I'm not gonna waste any more time explaining what the heck is going on here. We're just gonna jump right in. So the first graphs that I'm going to show you is the overall January through June graphs. I'm gonna scoot over and hope that I'm still in a good place in the frame so that I can actually show graphs over here. To start with, here are my totals for all of the months. These are all of the words that I wrote each month. Clearly in March, I didn't have a super great month. And then this number down here is the average of all of that. So even despite having a 0 word month, my average is still 13,000 words a month, which I think is pretty good. I think my first impression of just this is that I didn't realize how much I wrote in January. Last January of 2021 was so unproductive for me. Like I literally did so little, and it frustrated me because I had such high plans for like the first part of the year, but I like kind of fell into this post-holiday slump, I guess, and it just made it really hard to write and like pick up after the Christmas holidays. This year, however, I had a deadline. And so it kept me going. I entered Author Mentor Match, which was in January, I believe, was the submission window. And so I was finishing up my last round of revisions. So I was churning through revision words. That's what January is mostly revision words, which we'll see in some of the other graphs later. But yeah, I'm super happy that I was able to get that number up this year. So then the next graphs that I have that kind of cover the full 6 months are this one, which is words by stage. So this takes the total words that I wrote, revised, edited, outlined, whatever, and breaks it down by the different type of thing that it was. So the thing that I did the most of was drafting. Drafting for me typically constitutes the 0 draft because, you know, this is where the words are coming out, and then from there it's revising. Drafting also encompasses any like blog posts that I wrote. So I do some revisions on those, but like it's not as intensive, and I don't actually track my revisions for my blog posts. I only track the initial like draft of it, just because I'm not usually changing major things in the same way that I am with books. I'm just kind of typically editing for grammar, punctuation, and then making sure the logical flow works on the blog post. I did do a little bit of rewriting apparently, which I'm not entirely sure what that comes from January. Like I said, revising Project Shadows for Author Mentor Match, I actually completely rewrote the end, and so that I categorized under rewriting rather than revising because it was just like fully new words. And then this graph is the breakdown of where the words have gone like project wise. So again, clearly Project Shadows has gotten the most attention so far. The order I think of this comes from the order like in which it shows up on the list. So obviously January was very Project Shadows. It was like the only thing I was doing. And then in February I shifted to Project Game. I also totally forgot that I did a bit of ghostwriting. And then March was also where I started writing some of my first few Ko-fi blog posts. And then in April, the first thing that I did was write my first rigmarole update. For anyone who missed my Camp Nano vlogs from April, one thing I did for Camp Nano was sort of a swap stories game with my writing group. So we each started a story, and then every day we were supposed to add like 5 to 500 words essentially to a different person's story. That was so much fun. Definitely want to do it again. So that's what that is. And then after that was whenever I started focusing on Project Fire again. The next bar graph that I have for, this is everything January through June, is the most productive day of the week. So what day did I write the most words? And that day is Tuesday. Strangely enough. I don't know why that's weird to me. I feel like Tuesday is not typically like my go-to writing day. Typically, I see that as Friday, like, which makes sense why that's like the second most, or Monday. I like either starting or ending the week with like a big writing push. And so that makes sense to me why Monday and Friday are both very tall graphs as well. It also makes sense to me that Wednesday and Thursday are a little bit shorter. I would expect Thursday to be higher, but Wednesday is typically my YouTube day. And so actually that probably is why it's higher, is because I threw Ko-fi into the mix. And so I bet you I was doing a lot more Ko-fi stuff on Wednesdays as well. And then with things starting to get busy with the house stuff, there were a lot of days where I ended up editing my videos the day that they were supposed to be uploaded, just because I started to get not behind, like I was still posting on my normal schedule, but I was starting to get behind in terms of the pace that I like to be at for YouTube, even before the craziness happened that made me have to take my like 2.5 month long break. And then the last graph that I have for the full 6 months is a pie chart breaking it down by format. So the majority of my writing work comes from my young adult novels. That's over half, those being Project Shadows and Project Fire. The next highest is middle grade novel now. I think the last time that I did this 6 month update thing, I really only had young adult novel because that was the only thing that I was working on. But I have diversified a lot, clearly. Then we have short story. So this is mostly rigmarole, and it's the ghostwriting that I did because they were short stories that I was writing for that. I like seeing some diversity though. I like seeing the fact that I was working on different stuff and sort of, you know, gaining new skills for those things in the process, because I do write a lot of YA, and you know, I don't want that to be the only thing that I ever do. So that is the total breakdown of all 6 months, just the bird's eye view of everything that I've done so far. And then after that, I thought it would be interesting to go month by month, like what I was doing. So in January, like I said, clearly this is very revising heavy. All of that is Project Shadows. And I did apparently actually start working on Project Game at the end of January. So that's where that brainstorming comes in. So in January, my most productive day of the week semi-reflects the full 6 months in terms of like the Monday and Tuesday. Although clearly I was doing a lot less work on Friday and no work at all on Thursday, which is surprising to me. I think some of the Saturday work also was probably me just trying to get in a little bit more work prepping for author mentor match. This is pretty similar, but this is kind of why I like to do the 6 month breakdown as well, because I feel like month to month I'm a very focused writer. Like I narrow in on one project at a time and I just get a ton done for that. And so these graphs on the monthly view aren't super helpful for me because they're really basically the same thing. But it's when I zoom out to the 6 month view that I can see all the different things that I've been working on and like how those things relate. So then in February is when my focus shifted like basically totally to Project Game. Scrolling down the list, I can see that that is actually the only project that I worked on in February. So this is my words by stage breakdown for Project Game specifically in February. I didn't get too far into drafting before I took a break from that project. So this is probably the bulk of the work, like just overall, not even just in February. And then productive day of the week, here's where another Friday spike comes, and we're consistently doing things on Tuesday, but Monday is so far down there. That's crazy to me. Next we have March. We do have a little bit of Project Game in here, but we also have the ghostwriting project that I was working on and the beginning of Ko-fi. So I did not write very many words in March apparently. Only 3,000 words. Wow. I did like nothing in March. Wow. So yeah, that was mostly outlining and drafting. This was the planning phase for the ghostwriting that I did. Weirdly enough, Wednesday is my highest, but that doesn't say much because I think all of these are separate writing days, and so they're not like averaged out. And then April is where things get interesting again because I was actually on the ball writing fairly regularly. Like scrolling through this, I can see almost every day has something in it. And April had a lot of double projects per day as well, which typically is not something that I end up using on this graph either, or on this tracker, not graph. Because like I said, when I narrow in on one project, I'm working on just project shadows for the day, or like just blog posts or whatever. I typically don't bounce between projects in a month, let alone in a day. But because we were doing the rigmarole, because I was working on ghostwriting for a client, and because it was Camp Nano, and I wanted to do like my own personal project writing, we got some variety in this one. So words by stage, we did mostly drafting. That's gonna be Project Fire and the ghostwriting that I did, and probably Ko-fi blogs as well. Oh, and the rigmarole would be under drafting. Outlining and brainstorming are probably all for Project Fire because that's what I was working on the first part of the month, was wanting to finish my Project Fire outline. And then revising was gonna be for the ghostwriting project. So I turned it in, I got some notes back, and then I needed to do a revision pass, a couple revision passes of the short stories to make some changes that the client wanted. So then most productive day of the week, Monday and Tuesday still holding strong, Friday also there, and then nothing on weekends and very little in the middle of the week as well. And this is the bar graph of the different projects. See, this is where this bar graph is helpful, is if you work on multiple projects in a month. And so that's the interesting one part about April, is that I actually have enough data for this to mean something in this month. Project Fire still got the most of my attention, but the client work got the second most attention. And then the pie chart of the types of things that I was working on. So where Fire and ghostwriting got are the two highest projects. Apparently short stories actually what got the most words, because that also is going to include the rigmarole. May is where we see the major drop off. So I also didn't do a ton in May, although I did get my 10K day in, which is that Friday. Although I must not have actually updated that. So maybe I did have slightly more words in May, but again, all on Friday. The majority of that was drafting, that's the 10K day, and Project Fire, with a tiny little bit in Ko-fi. June's graphs will be fun because they all look like this, because I did nothing in June. So yeah, that is my quick little breakdown of 6 months of writing stats. I think I said this in my last, or like my first video where I talked about my writing stats. Love this so much. I'm such a like tracker person, stats person, visual graphs type of person. I love graphs. They're so good. And so this, like being able to do this and like visualize and actually see how much work I'm doing, like has helped me so much with accountability in terms of like motivating myself to write, because if I don't write, then I'm not gonna see it in the graph, and I want to see it in the graph. But also just like being able to see, I guess, like where life happened as well. Like June, it has no words on it, but that also just like brings up memories of what was happening in June, and so I can like be okay with the fact that there's no words on there. So far in 2022, January to June, I have written 81,384 words, which is a lot of words. While there have been some months where I didn't get as much done as I wanted to, putting it into perspective, I've made some really good progress. I finished revision. I went through developmental drafting and revising of 3 short stories. I had a lot of fun drafting like 7 short stories with my friends. I built the outline of a novel from scratch, like from literally no idea to fully fleshed out outline from scratch. Started drafting that book. I have like half of Act 1 done. I re-outlined a project and started drafting that project. So I've done a lot like just in the first half of the year, and I'm excited that now that things have chilled out a little bit for me, that I can jump back in and keep making progress on those projects. Let me know if you do any sort of tracking for your writing. Do you have like graphs, or like what sort of stuff do you track and use? Is there anything that you like to keep track of that I maybe don't have on this? Because if you tell me and it's interesting, I might add it to my little tracker. Like I said, the link to this template will be down below. Credit to that fully goes to Kate Kavanaugh. The pages that I added, I think I mentioned that at the beginning. The pages that I added were just the 6-month page, and then I also added those graphs that were the monthly breakdowns. On hers, it's just each individual month has its own like tracker with graphs, so I just wanted to compile all of that into a 6-month view as well. But yeah, let me know how your writing has gone in the first half of the year. What have you been working on? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye!